Hello everyone, the Kentucky Patriot here. Just want to discuss a really hot topic right now. It seems like it's really been kind of the buzzword, and you've got a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and opinions are perfectly fine. Everybody has them, so whatever your opinion is, great. But what we're here to do today maybe is try to separate opinion from fact and what you hear and what's actually correct, because you'll hear everything concerning this little guy right here. Is the topic of discussion today, the 22 LR. And I've got it sitting here beside the 9mm, the 9x19, 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP, your typical 5.56, and then your 7.62 by 39, your AR rounds. So these are very common rounds, but this little guy seems like has been the buzzword. And this video, I'm specifically only talking about it for home defense. So whether you have, a platform like this or a smaller for this, literally, we're not talking about hunting applications. We're not talking about, a bug out bag or survival or travel or hiking. I'm literally only talking about home defense / EDC, personal defense, protection, using the 22 LR. And we have such a vast spectrum of opinions of what people say, but what is fact? What is reality? Is it a good round for home defense? Is it a good round for EDC? Is it not enough? Is it what you want? And I've literally heard everything from, this is the best round you can have for home defense, because once it hits a human body, it doesn't penetrate all the way through. It dances around, and that way you have all kinds of wound channels. Well, I'm a funeral director and embalmer by trade. I have been over 20 years, and unfortunately I've seen many gunshot wounds on actual victims. Not meat targets, not animal targets, not water jugs, but actually humans. And I will tell you from experience, that is absolute fiction. That does not happen. Now, I'm not saying it can't go in here, hit a rib, and deviate somewhat, but as far as dancing around like a star and like a pinball, that certainly doesn't happen. But then you hear people say they're non-lethal at all, that they're useless. So what is right? What is wrong? You've got a huge spectrum here, and if you say I talk too much, or you say anything like that, I'm not being harsh, I'm not being mean, but how else am I going to explain this stuff? I can't do sign language, so a lot of the videos they say, you talk too much. Well, I'm trying to give you my background, my experience, what I've seen to help you make your educated choice. Because, this shirt that I've got on, we're all in the Second Amendment community. We're all in the 2A. We're all Americans. We're all, probably everybody loves this channel, is a freedom-loving American, so we're all on the same team. So really what you carry, what rounds you carry, the gun you carry, the brand, the holster, what you use for home defense. What I care about is not really what you pick, but what I care about is you keeping your family safe and you making a good choice on realistic information, not on something you read on the internet or you heard somebody say, because literally you will hear all kinds of things, and some things are right on the money, and some things you're like, wow, how did they get this, But if you watched my video a while back, I'd actually done some testing with the 22 LR and said, is it, good for, defense? And my test was what happens a lot of times when you have a long barrel, a test barrel. Let's say you're testing your targets and you're shooting out of something like this, your round may expand, okay? Because this is a hollow point. But when you shorten the length of the barrel to this, it does not expand. So what happens is you think you're getting this because you tested it and you got a hollow point, but you're using this, and the barrel length can make a difference. Now, on what I tested, a lot of the rounds, they still performed well. They still, had expansion even out of this shorter barrel. But you can't, expect results from a rifle out of a handgun that's always going to be the same, because you're losing a lot of velocity. And a long story short, you have to have enough velocity. There's a threshold there, and if you don't get above that threshold, you won't have expansion. You'll just actually have a bullet straight in and straight out. So you always want to test your ammo, but in the testing that I've done, we actually got quite a bit of expansion. Actually, I was very impressed with the rounds. And here's another thing, there's all kinds of different makes and models and manufacturers. A lot of the popular ones right now, if I can get them, I'm certainly going to try my best to test them, are the Stingers and the Federal Punch. Those would be some good choices, but still, no matter what round that you are using, you are still using a 22, and it'll never be a 9mm. And I know people will say with a 9mm, well, with advances and with bullet technology, no matter what, your 9mm will still never be a 44 Magnum. Your 40 will never be a 10mm. Your 40, so you have to realize what you're using, and you do have different choices in barrel length and firearms. I understand that, and different choices in ammo, and they are critical. But you still can't just depend on everything on bullet technology and the gun. You still have to look at the cartridge itself and what it is and what it is not capable of. It's proven, it's without debate, this is fact, a 22 is lethal. All rounds are potentially lethal, whether it's a 25 ACP, 380, 22 LR, 32, whatever the case may be, they're all lethal. But the question is, are they good for home defense / EDC? And that's what we want to kind of look at today. Well, I'm going to give you some scenarios, maybe some little info about it, but it's ultimately up to you. But I want you to have good information, so when you make this choice, that you have quality information. And I don't claim to be a know-it-all, but like I said, I from my experience, I've shot all my life. I've hunted with this, I've shot with this, I've seen actual shootings with this. I've done testing on camera. So do I claim to be a forensic scientist? No. Do I claim to have quite a bit of experience with it? Yes, and that's what I want to share with you. Now, back to the expansion, most people, when they're choosing a round to choose for self-defense, whether, like I said, home defense or EDC, they want a round to expand. And what that does, it makes the bullet actually larger. But what happens when it gets, the wider the diameter gets, the less velocity you have. So what happens is, like let's say a 9x19, you're going to have enough velocity to get probably, and you can do your own testing with what round you're using. We've done a lot here, but you'll probably get enough, what the FBI protocol is, to get enough penetration to what feel like people get, to reach the vitals and still have expansion. Well, there's a debate on the 22. Some people do not want expansion on their 22. They're afraid it won't go deep enough if people have clothing or whatever the case may be. That'll be up to you. But still, me personally, I would rather have a bullet this small expanded for me. I still think it'll reach vitals. Potentially, there is a chance it may not, but I would still like to have this little guy expand for me instead of just poking little holes. Now, there's some pros to something like this, and this is, to me, the greatest training tool. It's another video for another day, but first-time shooters, I always get them started on this, because a first-time shooter, even though you think like a 9mm won't have much recoil, the truth is, for a first-time shooter, there's still a big noise and there's still some felt recoil there. So what happens is they'll worry more about the bang and the recoil and the noise than they will actually focusing on trigger control, trigger squeeze, trigger discipline. So a 22 is fantastic for first-time shooters or new shooters, because they can practice on front sight focus, lining your sights up, good sight picture, how to hold the gun, trigger squeeze, and they can really concentrate on the fundamentals instead of worrying about the recoil of the gun. Of course, I am unloaded, so but anyway. There are some benefits to this as well, not only for a training tool, but as a defense weapon, and that is the lack of recoil and quick follow-up shots and to stay on target. And this I think holds 10 and 1, I believe it is. You put 11 rounds on target really fast, center mass. You can really turn the tides with a 22. There's not a doubt in my mind. Now this is not fact. This is my opinion. Okay. Now, I have no statistics for this, but what I'm telling you is, on a self-defense shooting, and like I told you, with the importance of assisted carry, when I had to pull my firearm, It was very close. It was very quick. Things happened really fast. I honestly believe the odds of you getting to hold your gun out, good sight picture, front sight focus, squeeze the trigger, and get 11 shots off in a concealed carry situation is a lot less than you actually having to unholster your gun and face a threat from right here. So to me, the odds of you getting 1, 2, or 3 shots off is going to be a lot greater than you getting to really get out here and put it where you want it. And yes, I know my finger's on the trigger, but I'm trying to prove a point here. I showed you it was unloaded, but to come out like this and to put right where you want it, not saying it won't happen. There is mall shootings, there is church shootings where that does happen. But what I'm saying is, on your first initial, a lot of times they're up on you. I know you know the 21-foot rule. If not, you need to check it out. But when an attack or a threat comes, for you to be able to clear the holster, a lot of times getting 1 shot off, you may have to defend with this hand. You may have to, try to get to your holster and defend yourself while trying to shoot. You getting 1 shot off or 2 shots off, a lot of times is going to be a lot more realistic than you getting to really get in your, stance and your form like you would at the range. Well, what happens is if you get only 1 or 2 shots off and they're potentially a threat, and there's different kinds. There's some people that just wants to rob you, some people that's skittish, but there's some people that's really maybe coming after you. If they're really coming after you with intent, whether with a knife or a club, and you only get 1 or 2 shots off, will a 22 be enough to deter them? That's the case. Now, I know that the truth can be made for 9mm, any a handgun round. We understand they're not a shotgun, they're not a rifle round, but still, the bigger, the faster the bullet, the better off you are to to be able to create space and to get them off of you, even if they don't die instantly, just to be able to. So I think that's certainly something to take into consideration with the 22. Now, I want to tell you this: don't let ego get in anybody's way. I'm telling you, if this is what you use, I don't think you're less of a man. I think macho a lot of times can get us in trouble. If this is what you choose, then you need to know its limits, and you need to know the pros and cons of it. And if especially if you're getting older, and I know people that have that they've used a certain, even like a big bore revolver for home defense or whatever, but as they've gotten older, whether it's arthritis or age or grip strength, they can't shoot what they one time did. So if that's the case, and you don't feel like you can handle something larger because of a handicap or whatever, you use this. You're not less of a man at all. You got to use that is available to you, that you feel like you can shoot accurately and consistently. So like I said, certainly don't let that deter you. But a lot of times, though, I think this is handed to a woman and said, here, this is what you need right here. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a woman and you carry this, especially if you're first time carrying this, what you're used to, that's perfectly fine. But I think most of the time, most women, like I said, with the exception maybe a handicap, you can get used to this gun, because my wife never shot a gun when we got married. Well, she started out with this and then went on up from there, and now she shoots everything from a 50 AE to a 454 to the 45-70. So like I said, but you don't want to start them out there. But I think a lot of times a woman is just given this and think, well, that's all you can handle, when actually this is a good starter gun, but you can move right on up the line, whatever you're comfortable with. But on a home defense situation, you may have a more of an opportunity. You got a bigger magazine. You may have more opportunity to have the high ground, so to speak. The layout of your house. You may be able to put shots on target faster with more consistency than you can with a smaller gun for EDC. That's something to take into consideration. And I'm not trying to talk you into anything. I'm not trying to talk you out of anything. But this is fact. There is no debate about this. This is just the way it is. And this gun has been extremely reliable. This is, I don't want to mislead you or misguide you, but I can tell you, maybe I can count just a very few times on one hand the times this gun has malfunctioned. And a lot of times it is ammo related. But even if you get a really good firearm and you buy really good quality ammo, And I understand somebody's going to say, well, I've seen a revolver malfunction. I've seen a 1911 malfunction. I've seen a Glock malfunction. Anything man-made can malfunction. And I understand you want something as reliable as possible. But there is no debate about this. A rimfire cartridge simply is not as reliable as a centerfire cartridge. Now, and that is also something to take into consideration. So you need to know how, with any firearm, to rack, tap, be able to clear a malfunction, whatever the case may be. But now, that is something definitely to consider for home defense or EDC when your life depends on it, is reliability. Because no matter how good of a shot you are, how quick you are on the draw, if it doesn't go bang, it's not going to help you any. So that is not a myth. That is absolute fact. That rim fire is just not as reliable as a center fire cartridge. So there's just a lot of debate about this. Is it capable? Is it not? I've told this story before, but there was a guy that ran the mob in around the Philadelphia area. His name was Nicky Scarfo, and he actually had one of his own men put a hit on another man. Some of them think they're going to squeal or they're going to talk, they'll put a hit out. Well, they had him at his house, and it showed the police files where they got him in the house, and he'd been shot twice in the back of the head with a .22 LR. Well, the guy ended up living, and he ended up testifying against them, and that's what really kind of helped bring him down with their own men. But he'd been shot twice in the back of the head with the .22 at point blank range. And that is very dangerous. That is very critical. It's a wonder that he lived. It really is. But what I'm saying is, I know people, all they talk about is shot placement. And yes, shot placement is important. But when you have this small of a round, it is possible, because when you think of a shot placement, a perfect shot placement is the head. And this gentleman was shot twice in the head and lived to testify. So what I'm saying is, it's not up for debate. If it would have been this round that was twice, your AK round at point blank range in the same spots, there wouldn't have been no testimony. So what I'm saying is, be realistic with your rounds, get out and test them. And like I said, I have no ill regret with anybody that carries any round. It's not for me to decide for you. I do not look down upon you no matter what you carry. I don't think anybody should. But I do want you to understand, if you're carrying this, you're not going to fire one round into a home intruder and it go just like this and it neutralizes the threat, and it's the best home defense round there is. Now there is, again, some advantages like we talked about with recoil, fast follow-up shots. It's great to train with. It's cheap. You can train with this all day and not break the bank. When you start moving up the list here, when you begin to train with some of these others, money is an issue, and I understand that. So there's a lot of advantages to this guy, and like I said, I love the .22, but I want you to make a good choice. And if you do choose that is perfectly fine. But just make sure that you understand that what we're really carrying this for. And again, this isn't a bug out situation. This isn't range time fun. This isn't a hunting situation. You have to realize, if you're carrying this for EDC or you're carrying this for home defense, and this is what you're using, that your life's probably at stake, and it could be life or death. And my thoughts, my opinion, if I only get one or two shots off, I at least, now this is just my opinion. This is not fact. This is my opinion. I've said this for years, and even in my older videos. If you ask my opinion, well, what do you think? What's your honest opinion? My honest opinion is, if you're going with a revolver, you go no less than 38 special. If you are going with a handgun cartridge, my opinion, you go no less than 9mm. That's my opinion. But again, if you have a handicap, or if there's all kinds of reasons to use this, and if you want to use this, then that is certainly up to you. I will tell you this though, and I've heard this too. They say, I've heard them say, well, I use this because a .22 won't penetrate through interior walls. I do it to protect my loved ones. Trust me on this, and I made videos with shooting through sheetrock. Nothing will even slow down a bullet as far as interior walls, unless it hits a stud. Not even if it is, your house is insulated, insulation won't slow it down. Sheetrock certainly won't slow it down. This will go through umpteen layers, so please don't feel like you're using this round because it won't penetrate through your walls, and you're protecting your loved ones. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's personal choice, it's personal preference, and all that matters is you and your family are safe. But you really need to know the ballistics, you really know what your capabilities are, and you really need to know if on EDC, if I do only get 1 or 2 shots off, what's going to happen here in home defense. How's your house laid out? Are you in a place where you can get cover, where you can lay down several rounds of fire really quick? What happens if the gun does jam? Can you clear it out in the night? And that's with any round. I'm not saying that 22 is going to fail all the time, but I'm just telling you a rim fire isn't as reliable as center fire. I threw a lot of information at you really fast, really quick, but I just sat down here. I had nothing scripted. I just thought, I'm going to do a 22 video. It's a hot topic. I'm going to give some facts, and then I'm going to throw in some opinions as well. And I wanted you to see the different rounds, but test your rounds. And actually, YouTube's a great source. There's a lot of great channels out there that's doing a lot of ballistics testing that you can get a good idea. But you use the round that you plan on using in your gun, and you test it for yourself. You test shooting it. You test your accuracy. You test your capabilities, and you test the round in your gun, make sure it feeds reliable, and you test the round, the performance in the target, and see for yourself. Because there's pros, and there is no perfect gun, there is no perfect round. They've all got pros and cons, but you got to realize, like I said, if we're talking home defense and EDC, the choice you make, it could be literally life and death, and not only you, of your loved ones. So, like I said, we're all in this together. I am not one of these guys that think my opinions are always right, and if you do something different than me, then you're wrong. I mean this with all my heart, just like that Mr. Wilson that saved all those people at his church, or that young man just recently that saved all those lives at a mall shooting. If my wife and kids are somewhere and somebody heroically stops a mass shooter and neutralizes the threat and saves my wife and kids, hey, he's a hero to me. I don't care if he's carrying a Glock. I don't care if he's carrying an M&P. I don't care if he's carrying an H&K. I don't care if he's carrying a .357 SIG or a .40 caliber or a revolver. It's not about what we carry. It's about protecting ourselves and our loved ones, and knowing and having a realistic opinion and view of what these rounds will do, because you hear a lot of things, and I just don't want anybody to pick around with the hopes and expectations it's going to perform a certain way, only to find out in a life and death situation that's not how it really is. So I don't care a bit to do more testing on any of these, anything you'd like to see. I've done a lot of testing in the past. Hopefully I'll do a lot more in the future. Like I said, if I can get some Federal Punch, if I can find them, or some Stingers, I'll certainly be happy to test those as well. If you have any questions, comments, any experiences that you have, do you carry a 22, and if so, why? Let me know. Let's share our ideas, our thoughts, and opinions. As always, keep it family friendly. I'm always up to a different opinion, and but we have to understand opinions are opinions and facts are facts. And even if you're really strong in your opinion, you really believe but it's still your opinion. So make sure we understand what opinions are and what facts are, and make sure the advice that you give, even if they're your friends, they're your buddies, they're people that you think maybe been in the military, or maybe a police officer, or maybe works at a gun store, doesn't mean they've had a whole lot of experience with this round. And I've heard people that should know better tell you stuff like that. It'll bounce around, it'll dance, it's the best home defense round you can get. They mean well, but it's simply not the case. You're going to get a hole in and a hole out. Now, if it does expand, you're going to get a little bit more. I would go for the expansion. That's my opinion. If you're worried about penetration, you may not want a hollow point. You may want one that you don't have to ever worry about expansion. So that's up to you. I'll try not to be too long-winded here. Just try to cover a lot of ground really quick. But I wish you and yours the very best. May God bless you. If you would, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments, and check me out on Facebook and Instagram, The Kentucky Patriot. May God bless you. Wish you and yours the very best.